and we are seeing out sanitation sector. Maybe that is the future. So maybe I go back to Fidelis. He shared a lot of working with some WSPs to develop bankable projects. Maybe you can let us know whether this was specific sanitation projects, if there are any challenges, and maybe how far you have gone, just as a way of sharing with the participants here.
All right, thanks a lot. I think from my presentation I talked about technical assistance funding, and this comes through the water.org side, which is the philanthropy side. And what we do is we identify utilities, those who want to do projects. So this includes sanitation, it also includes water projects. I think for one, the partnership that we have with the Water Sector Trust Fund, we are looking at one of the sewer projects under Nyeri Water Company. So designs have been done. From our side, we are validating or reviewing them to make sure that they meet the bankability status for them to be financed through commercial banks. So with those, once we have, the consultant has finished the designs, remember I talked about the commercial banks where we have trained them on how to review the designs, how to look at the cash flow of the utility to see if the loan can actually be repaid from the revenues that will be coming in. So we will then facilitate that linkage with those commercial banks. I talked about water equity, the investment that we have. So this is debt capital that will go to SMEs. So if you're an SME, if you manufacture materials that are used by utilities, you can actually come directly to us through water equity. We can organize a debt capital. We can also do what we call equity funding. So if you want to expand your business, we can invest in it, and then we can discuss on how the equity shares will be done. And if you want us to exit over a certain period of time, that can also be arranged. Then the last part, which is through our now newer organization, I said we are a 3-in-1, or Water Connect. Now we are looking at developers. So if you look at projects like PPPs, PBCs, performance-based contracting, we are able to provide capital directly to the private company. So we can discuss on the financing. We are looking at very big projects. So we're starting at $2 million, going up to even $100 million, depending on the project. So we can do that. Currently, I think we have raised over $200 million US for the 11 countries that we are in. And I can give you an example of the performance-based contract that we just completed in Indonesia, where a private company has accessed funds. We first of all did designs for them. And once the designs were done, we linked them to a commercial bank. And of course, now if the funds were not enough, we provided capital directly to them through the Water Equity, Water Connect funds that we have. So that's how we operate. We start from designs. We provide TA, which is the grant. And then we can also provide debt capital if you require that. If not, then we can link you to commercial banks for you to access commercial loans.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry. Yeah, I think we've heard from our panelists. I give this chance to you for any comment, yeah, or question.
Thank you very much for that rich presentation from all the presenters. I have some quite weighty questions to the panelists. So One is to looking at the presentation from water.org. My name is Eva. I work for government, but before government, I've been in private sector, so I did not drop my private sector hat. And I'm a chair of Kenya Private Sector Sanitation Actors, where we have sanitation entrepreneurs, an umbrella of Pan-African sanitation actors from an African perspective. And we've been looking for audience, both from Water Trust Fund and from water.org, to capacity build the market. Because we have interesting markets where formally the private sector at that level is registered and it's formal, but they operate informally. So that informal operation makes them not qualify for grant funding or for whatever funding is available. And I don't know what, because I've seen you give technical support like to financial institutions to build them on the market. And looking at Kenya, where we're talking about 30% is non-seaward. So we are the 70 or 60% that operate out of that non-seaward. What can be done for us to have this conversation? Because we are, most of the things I'm hearing in these conferences that we've been attending, for example, the decentralized systems. I hope you got my first question, yeah? Then the decentralized system. 5 years ago, we brought a decentralized system in Nairobi, in Kiambu, and we connected to an estate with the hope we can connect all the other estates, but there's no legal framework. Then in the same Nairobi, we have about 159 decentralized systems operating in private estates and all that. We are happy if we are put on the table to discuss how do we do this. It is new to government, yes, in terms of decentralization, but it is not new to the private sector who've been in that field. So how can we collaborate and help that SME who is making profit, but they don't understand that good bookkeeping can make you scale up to the next level. They're probably scared of borrowing. Maybe they want to borrow, the bank cannot listen to them. The exhauster is very old. They think it breaks down, but yet they're making profit. Because I can tell you, I'm a private sector. I have a stand here, Varied Products, you can visit it. We make money out of it, and we make money genuinely, not out of profit, just like any other business. How can we help those SMEs, MSMEs, to grow the sector? Thank you very much. Sorry, it's quite long, but I hope you got the point. And then also, just to tell the two organizations, we have a platform where we have in Nairobi, a WhatsApp platform, and it's registered. We have 47 companies that drive menstrual hygiene management in Nairobi and out of Nairobi. Very formal businesses. They say they try to reach the financial institution, and it is difficult. So we have what we are looking for, but we need to sit down and first understand from how we operate, and first give us technical support for build up, and then now we are able to scale up for financial preparedness. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Peter. I work for a company called Xylem Water Solutions. We're based in Nairobi, regionally overseeing around 8 Eastern African countries. So we offer all water solutions, be it wastewater or potable water. So my question is, one of the things that I've not seen being mentioned for the whole of today, because I came here today, is on all these sanitation solutions. You mentioned sewer lines or everything else. There are equipment behind all these. So if we have existing systems where equipment had already been installed, there is already infrastructure, one of the biggest challenge is the energy source, the running costs, the OPEX. So currently mentioning the aspect of carbon credit or sustainable kind of financing, you can't run away from sustainable energy sources like solar power. So my question is, when you are financing, I'm assuming you approach an existing utility, they already have their infrastructure. One of their biggest challenge is the running costs, especially on energy. Are you able to finance just the solarization of the existing systems? The other madam also mentioned something about data. And for carbon credit financing and the rest of the financing, you not only want to have data before you implement a project, but you also want, once you implement that project, you are able to monitor the performance, the actual performance of the project. So the kind of solutions that we have to integrate to existing systems in terms of remote monitoring and the remote operation of this system, they are also capital intensive. Are you also able to finance such kind of solutions for already existing systems? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My name is CPA Eric from Kakamega Water. I think my question is to Fidelis. When you are presenting, I think you left out the partner called the Government of Kenya. You highlighted the banks that work closely, that is the private sector, and the philanthropy bit. But to make the financing model more sustainable, I am lost where we will enter in the national cake. Just like schools get capitation for every student, how can we engage the government to ensure that, for example, for every household I connect to the sanitation network, I am able to get some kind of allocation to support that network for sustainability? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Benson Kimodo from Regional Center on Groundwater. As we have listened to presentations since yesterday, one of the biggest challenge in the water and sanitation sector is lack of funds, inadequate funds. For us in the Regional Center on Groundwater, we have been doing a lot of resource mobilization. And one of the problems that we have encountered is you approach an investor and the word they bring is bankable water project. Mr. Fidelis, how are you doing to capacity build the sector? Because if you listen to even other institutions, there's a problem with us maybe coining a project or even try to show how the project will be bankable. So we need to know how we can do this capacity building and how maybe the government can take the initiative. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Patrick Kwadu. I work with the county government of Taita Taveta in the Department of Water and Sanitation. In this conference, we all agree that safely managed sanitation coverage is still very low. And over 21 counties, where we have so many small towns and urban centers, which are really coming up very fast, have zero seaward sanitation. And also when you look at the non-seaward sanitation, also it's really, really low. And as a sector, as a government, and all stakeholders, we need to mobilize high impact investments, financing to bridge that sanitation gap. My question will be, what strategy, and we appreciate what WSTF has done, stakeholders, and also government, what they've done in addressing the sanitation issues. But how are we going to raise these huge finances for high impact investment in sanitation infrastructure to bridge this sanitation gap? And we've been talking about involvement of the private sector. And we all agree, private sector, they are there for business. They are there for profit. And in most projects, and maybe Fidelis can attest, when you're looking at the bankability of these projects, you find that at some point, if you're going to engage into a PPP, you have to have that viability gap funding to ensure that even those low-income people can have access to these sanitation services. So how are we going to raise that financing, and how are we going to, if it's government, how are we going to have that viability gap funding to ensure that we have these sanitation infrastructure and improved services? Thank you.
To the questions.
Yeah, there are quite a lot. So, so maybe I'll just start with the SMEs and you talked of exhausters, small businesses. I think what we are doing, the training or capacity building we are doing to commercial banks, we are also doing that to microfinance institutions. I talked of Amphi-K and Amphi-U in Uganda. And this training is, I think you'll realize banks will tell you they don't want to take start-up organizations. So you'll need to provide a record, whether you have been borrowing before, your sales and all that, so that they can use that to create their cash flows and then see if you're able to repay the loan that you want. So I think for now, we have not been able to go to the ground and actually come up with a program where we would train now these small organizations on how they can come up with these bankable project proposals. We have not gone to that extent. So we have started with banks and microfinance institutions, hoping that when the customer comes in, then they'll be able to they'll be told, this is how you need to develop your proposal, your business plan, and then your cash flows. And then, of course, start operating, provide some records, which the branch manager or the loans officers can then review for them to issue out the loans. But we are open to have a discussion and sit down and see how we can partner so that at least those small organizations can get those funding. I think Ruth will expand on this. Then the second one on the solar financing. At Water.org, we have a water and climate fund that we soon to be giving out. And what we do is, if you're looking at now, for example, I know in Nakuru, they use a lot of boreholes. And when you use boreholes, I think also the efficiencies of the pumps, you'll be using a lot of electricity, and your electricity bill will be very high. So we are also going into projects where you would want to solarize so that you can reduce the cost of the bill for electricity. So that can be done. We can look at those projects for solar and see how now we can help you to do the designs, and then we link you with the banks who have this facility for watch financing. I think the other one was on how the government will be involved. One good thing is my friend Ruth here is government. And WSPs are government. So that's how we are linking with government stakeholders. We also do meetings with WASREB, one of the government regulators in the water sector. So we are quite involved with the government institutions. So through them, that's how we connect. I think Ruth can also expound on that. And then lastly, I think on the bankable project proposals, how we do that. I think we have done, last year in October, we have done the first training with 7 banks and 7 water companies. And what we were doing there is to give them an outline on how you can develop your business proposal. So we have a template for that. And then, of course, we also have a financial tool that we use, rights owned to us. So we can train them on how to develop a cash flow that will speak about the water production. Of course, banks would want to know what is the non-revenue water for your company, what is the collection efficiency, and all that. So we have a tool which provides a step-by-step on how that is done. So moving forward, we're putting together funding so that we can have a bigger training of utilities. And this is why we are part of WASPA. So we'll connect with, I think, the new Anthony that is coming in, and then we see which water companies we can start to do the training. And then, of course, through the Water Sector Trust Fund, we can link with them and participate in some of the projects that they're working on. Yeah, thank you. I think the last one, I think I'll pass it on to Ruth. Then she can assist me on that.
Thank you so much, Fidelis. I'll try. They are all good and some quite weighty questions. So for the question on the sanitation actors, Eva, just first to congratulate you and your team for the really great work that you're doing in sanitation. I don't think it goes unnoticed, but I think, for example, the Water Sector Trust Fund, we have interacted with sanitation actors at program level. So for example, when we have been financing the decentralized treatment facilities for the WSPs who are here, if you have implemented one, you know, there's a whole component of sanitation marketing, and also a lot of capacity, where we actually build the capacity of up to the level of the MTS, because it's a process that requires household toilets are done according to standards, and then there is the exhausting, and then there is, taking to the DTF for treatment. So across that whole value chain, through the financing to the WSPs, a lot of capacity has gone to sanitation actors, but it is not lost on us that what you're asking is a standalone, sustained training of sanitation actors. And that is probably just something that we can say that we will continue to discuss, and maybe look at organizations that are offering that and connect you with them. And I think Fidelis has already answered for himself, so I will not push him from this platform. But that is something we can definitely look into. I also want to mention that you're already in the practice. There's nothing better than being already in the practice. Eva is asking for capacity building of these actors, but you've already done projects which you've connected to households who I believe are paying revenue, right? And I think, Fidelis, that's already bankable. It's already bankable. Just that it was not designed as a bankable project for a loan financing. So I think working from the known to the unknown, working from what you've already done, we can discuss how we can build a model around that. Yeah? That can be a discussion going forward. Convincing the banks is usually up to the borrower at the end of the day, but we can do everything that is possible to provide the necessary training and to support in developing that bankable proposal. Because in a recent meeting that we had with the WSPs, one of the biggest hindrances that actually arose was, how do you do a bankable sanitation project? And that is one of the places where we agreed that we do need to build capacity for developing a bankable sanitation project. Bankable water projects have been done. I think, Fidelis, you need to help groundwater. That is quite easy to do. But we do need to work seriously on developing a bankable sanitation project. For solar, Fidelis answered. And the short answer is yes, even the trust fund finances solar all the time. Solar is already a facility that lends itself to bankability because it reduces the energy costs. Yeah, actually, for most of the institutions that implement solar in their projects, they reduce their electricity use by almost always by half, or almost half. So that is definitely a bankable thing. So maybe I can just jump all the way to the PPP. The one of government involvement, I will also not go much into because we are here. But I think, Kakamega, if you're looking maybe at another discussion on how the government and water.org can get more involved, I think maybe it can be another discussion, because every financing to a public body is only done within the rules and regulations of government. So I'm sure even Fidelis, if you finance a water company, it is only done through the rules and regulations of government. So including endorsements from county governments and all that, because even for us, when we finance WSPs, we get also that they have to get also that approval from the counties. For PPPs, I choose not to delve too much into it because it is a rather complex area. But there has been designed now PPPs, a kind of a framework also for PPPs in sanitation, smaller. Let's not think about that very complicated PPP framework that we have generally in the country. I think the government is working more and more towards documents for sanitation, smaller projects, smaller PPPs, and also customizing the PPP issues to our Kenyan issue. Viability gap funding has not yet very well been established yet in terms of sources. Of course, I know the government can provide a facility where organizations can get that from. But the last discussion I had with Treasury, they said they're still working towards around that, how to actually develop that viability gap funding. But in practice also, some things are practice more than theory. I am a very practical person. I like to look at the practicals. From practice, every support you provide to an organization or to a water company towards increased efficiency and increased revenue is almost a viability gap financing. You're bringing them closer to a place where they are more attractive for PPPs. So when, for example, the Water Sector Trust Fund finances a utility and you increase coverage, you increase revenue, it means that the next proposal you do to a bank or to a private sector for a project, you're more attractive. So it is using what you already have to improve your institutional attractiveness, institutional efficiency, and to increase also your coverage, to increase the financial statement. Because especially for the banks, it's usually almost always about the balance sheet. It's almost always about the cash flows, but also the issues of governance and all that. Anything you can do to improve yourself as an institution can almost begin to help you towards covering the various gaps that exist. But the financial gap, of course, there are partners who might be willing to give that, but the facility itself, the viability gap financing facility itself, is still a discussion that is going on. I don't have any more information than that on that. Neither am I the full authority on it, but I think you do understand what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I had any, there was no question addressed to me, I think. But maybe something that I can add, especially on the viability gap fund, I think one of the things that we're also trying to influence is public financing for that gap. And currently we're working with the ministry to see, we're in discussion with the ministry to see how that can be done. But also eventually we are looking at sanitation tariff as a sustainable way, a long-term way to also come in and step in, ring fence that amount to cover the viability gap that we're currently seeing, is what I can add.
We can, thank you so much, our panelists. Let's maybe clap for them. Also clap for ourselves. We were a very good audience. Yeah, I think that is it. That brings us to the end of this session. Maybe I can just summarize one thing I picked. What the members here are interested in is how to develop bankable projects. That's what came out. So that is a gap that is missing. And here you're telling us the bank and the financing facilities have money, but they need something that is bankable. So we need to see how we can bridge that gap. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think we are done with this session. As guided, maybe we proceed for our tea, then we wait for gala dinner. Asanteni sana.